Madam Nneka was a woman of substance, tall, huge, and commanding. Her presence alone could silence a crowd. She was known all over Port Harcourt as a no-nonsense woman, one who never took rubbish from anyone. She owned one of the most famous roasted plantain joints in the city, a spot simply known as the final bus stop. And truly, that name fit perfectly. Anyone who tasted Madam Nneka's bole once always came back with friends, family, and sometimes even strangers. Her bowl was legendary, soft, smoky, perfectly grilled, and always served with the richest sauce you could imagine. People booked her for weddings, birthdays, and big events. Her brand was that strong. Yet, behind that warmth and charm she showed her customers, there was another side, a darker, harsher one. To her customers, Madam Nneka was all smiles and politeness, calling them my darling, my king, or my sweet customer. But to her workers, she was a storm. A single mistake, a burnt plantain, too much pepper, a delayed order could earn a worker a hot slap before they could even finish saying sorry. Her first ever worker, a Ihoma, knew this better than anyone else. To Madam Nneka, Ihoma wasn't just a worker, she was her personal punching bag. Although most traders who had shops beside Madam Nneka minded their own business, none of them could deny what they saw. They often witnessed the harsh way she treated her workers, the shouting, the slaps, and the insults that echoed across the market. But instead of speaking up, they pretended not to see. Behind closed doors, however, their tongues were sharp. That woman will use her hand to kill those children one day, one of them said. You're right, another replied quietly. I wonder what life is like in her home. If someone told me she beats her husband, I would believe it. How can anyone treat workers like that, all because of a 30,000 naira salary? They gossiped, but their words never reached Madam Nneka's ears. To her, everything was fine, her business was booming, her customers were happy, and her workers were terrified. One day, Ihoma, her first and most loyal worker, was peeling yam. She walked carefully, but by mistake, she sliced off a big chunk and almost threw it away as waste. Before she could hide her error, Madam Nneka's loud voice came from behind. Ihoma, are you done? Panicking, Ihoma quickly sat on the yam, the freshly peeled new yam, to hide her mistake. It worked. Madam Nneka didn't notice, and no slap came that moment. But did she really get away with it? That evening, Ihoma's whole body started itching terribly. She bathed, used oil, and even prayed, but the itching grew worse. Then she remembered she had sat on a new yam. Still, she didn't quit. She needed that job to survive. Her small POS work paid only 15,000 naira, and that was barely enough to live on. So she endured the pain and went back to work the next day. Weeks later, Madam Nneka hired a new helper, a young boy named Nubari. She gave him her usual warning speech. We don't tolerate mistakes here. If you burn plantain, I will burn your ear along with it. Nubari nodded quickly, determined to do well. At first, everything went smoothly. He was polite, careful, and respectful. But one afternoon, 3 plantains got burnt under his care. Before he could explain that he was attending to a customer, a loud slap landed on his face so hard that his ears rang. He stood there, shocked. He had only worked for a week. Even after the slap, he still tried to explain himself. Later that evening, while walking home with the other workers, he asked quietly, "Was that slap a mistake?" The others exchanged looks but said nothing. That was when he understood it was not a mistake. He endured for another month, then quietly left the job. A few days later, a new girl joined the team. Goodness, a beautiful, curvy, soft-spoken young woman with a kind heart. She followed every instruction carefully and tried her best not to upset Madam Nneka. But her beauty attracted attention. Many men who came to buy bole admired her openly, and Madam Nneka didn't like it. One morning, Goodness made a small mistake. She mixed up 2 customer orders. Before anyone could react, a sharp slap landed on her cheek. "You think because men admire you, you've arrived?" Madam Nneka shouted. Goodness didn't say a word. She quietly finished her work and went home. But 2 days later, karma came knocking. That same right hand, the one that had slapped so many people, began to swell. At first, it was small, but by evening, it had become heavy, red, and hot. She took painkillers. She soaked it in warm water. She even tied a black cloth around it while muttering prayers. But nothing worked. The same hand that once fed others had now become her punishment. Madam Nneka's swollen hand soon became the talk of the market. At first, she thought it was nothing serious. She went to a clinic in town, but after several tests, the doctors shook their heads. There was no diagnosis, no explanation. So she turned to native medicine. Every morning, before opening her bole stand, she would rub all kinds of herbs and black mixtures on her hand. The smell alone could chase away a lizard. Still, her fiery eyes did not soften. She watched her workers closely, shouting orders and giving threats. "Don't think that because my hand is hurting, I can't slap you. I'm only saving it for you." Her workers would laugh quietly behind her back, whispering, "Madam doesn't know that it's only God holding her hand now." Days turned into weeks, and even though she thought the herbs were helping, one morning she woke up to a worse sight. Her hand had turned red and heavy again, swollen twice its size, throbbing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. This time, fear filled her heart. She began searching for stronger traditional healers, traveling from Rumwola to Elele, from Elele to Okehi. She tried every root, every leaf, and every oil she could find, but nothing worked. Her younger sister, Mabel, came to visit after hearing rumors about her condition. When she entered Nneka's room and saw the hand, her mouth opened in shock. "Jesus, Nneka, who did you offend?" "Me? I'm gentle like a dove," Madam Nneka replied proudly. Mabel frowned and asked, "What about your workers?" Madam Nneka hesitated, then said, "Maybe I annoyed some of them a little, but it was just ordinary slaps. Who hasn't slapped someone before?" Mabel sighed deeply. "You need to apologize to them. Stop treating those children like animals. That's why this thing is not healing." But Madam Nneka refused. She insisted that what she needed was stronger medicine, not apologies. Yet, as the days passed, her hand grew bigger and her strength weaker. Business began to slow down. She couldn't roast plantain, couldn't flip yam, not even hold a spoon without pain. At last, pride bowed to pain. She called her workers together one evening. Her voice trembled, though she tried to act strong. "If you people had done the work the way I told you, you know I wouldn't have slapped you," she said. The workers exchanged glances. The apology didn't sound real. But when nothing changed, when her hand still refused to heal, she finally broke down. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she called each worker by name: Iheoma, Goodness, Tari, Nubari, begging them for forgiveness. This time, Her apology was sincere, and slowly, like a miracle, her hand began to heal. Day by day, the swelling reduced. The redness faded. The pain disappeared. During her healing, Madam Nneka changed completely. She told her workers to stay 3 miles away from her whenever she got angry. "I don't want to accidentally slap anyone again," she would joke. They laughed, not out of fear, but out of peace. For the first time, the shop felt calm and joyful. Madam Nneka had finally learned her lesson. But what no one knew was that Nubari, the quiet boy she once slapped, was actually Goodness's brother. He had promised himself never to raise his hand against a woman, no matter what. So when he left, he sent his sister to work there, not for revenge, but for justice that only destiny could bring. And truly, it was after Goodness joined that Madam Nneka's hand began to swell. She never discovered the connection, but fate had already balanced the scales. From that day forward, she became a new woman, humble, kind, and gentle. And the people would say, "If you want to know what pride can do, ask Madam Nneka, the woman who fought with her own hand and lost." When Madam Nneka finally changed, the news spread fast through the market like morning fire. Everyone could see it. She was no longer the same woman who once barked at her workers or slapped them for the smallest mistakes. Her neighbors, who used to gossip about her cruelty, now spoke kindly of her. "You see Madam Nneka?" one trader said. "Na different person she don't turn to." "True talk," another replied. "Even her bowl is sweet past before. Na hand wey no dey fight, they cook better food." Business began to blossom again. Old customers returned. New ones came in numbers. Soon, she expanded her shop, added more chairs, more umbrellas, and even employed more hands. But this time, her workers were not afraid. They laughed, sang, and worked together like family. Madam Nneka treated them with kindness, and every morning before lighting her charcoal, she whispered a quiet prayer. "God, let these hands feed people, not hurt them again." Yet behind her story of healing was a secret she never knew. Nubari, the quiet boy she once slapped, had not left in anger. He had left with a plan not for revenge, but for justice. When he sent his sister Goodness to work at the bole stand, he told her, "Men don't fight women with fists, but sometimes heaven needs a messenger." Goodness went, carrying both forgiveness and silent purpose. And it was after she arrived, after her tears fell under that stinging slap, that Madam Nneka's hand began to swell. Fate had completed the circle. It wasn't witchcraft. It wasn't a curse. It was simply justice served by the same hand that caused the pain. With time, the truth no longer mattered. What mattered was the lesson. Madam Nneka became a changed woman, humble, kind, and respected. Her bole stand became not just the final bus stop for customers, but a home of second chances. And the market people would say, "If you want to know what pride can do, ask Madam Nneka, the woman who fought her workers but lost to her own heart." Moral of the story: the same hands that feed you should never be used to harm another. Because when pride rules your hand, pain will teach it humility. Whatever you give, whether love or pain, life will always find a way to return it to you. Thanks a lot, family, for watching and listening to these beautiful African folktales. Don't forget, we still remain your one and only Zika. Please, don't forget to like, comment, share, and turn on the notification bell. Let's say a short prayer before I leave you for today. May your hands never bring you sorrow. May everything you touch bring life, not pain. May your labor yield peace, your words sow kindness, and your heart never grow proud when blessings come. If pride has ever made you hurt another, may God grant you the grace to make it right. If you've ever been hurt by those in power, may heaven fight silently for you and restore your joy. May your home never lack food, and may your hands never lose their strength to create good things. As Madam Nneka found mercy, so shall you find mercy in every season of your life. In Jesus' name, Amen.